You know, about a year, was it 6 months ago, you were into the gym world. Obviously, you've come from an elite sports background. We don't need to hear about that. We hear about it every day. No, but obviously you come from an elite sports background. I always find that really interesting. But even back in the days of Function Well, when was that? Is that a year and a half ago? 2 years ago?
Oh, the years have gone so quick. Almost like a year, 2 years.
It would be two. So that's how far back this goes. So I'm saying for 1.5 years, your training regime
Was elite.
was average, was below average.
Oh,
And you can
man.
fight this. But I would say I'm really interested in this because of your background. Your training regime was average, as in you would do 3 days as an elite athlete and you'd be like, and snatch and everything. And then you would disappear.
For like 2 weeks.
Yeah, or longer. And you're probably at KFC. And
Yeah.
then you'd go again and you'd be, and this went on for a year and a half to the point where everyone would say to me, "Where's Yops?" And I would go, sometimes you would go, "Boys not coming in, blah, blah, blah." But then it got to a point where you just didn't even message and you just wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
So it was always 50-50. Then we're talking 6 months ago,
Mm.
you never missed one session. From there
Wow.
to Hyrox, you never missed one session. You were guaranteed the person that was there.
Mm.
So I want to know, because I think it's important, especially in elite. I mean, how many elite athletes do you see top of their game and then fat fuckers?
Oh, heaps.
And I said to you, there was a photo of you at Nashville and your head was like a balloon. It was this big fatty. So I want to know, especially for people out there, how did you change up that discipline and go from Mr. Unreliable to probably the hardest worker in the gym? Like, what clicked? What did it?
Man, I don't even know what clicked. But I think all that time we did that run. What was that 10K? Damn, it was that 10K Movember run, I swear. I swear, man. I remember running.
But you went into it full of beans, mate. I got videos of you.
I was in there. Remember, I got so nervous that night before. I remember I sent you and Gus a photo, and I was at the KFC drive-thru. I was at the KFC drive-thru, man, and I was proper nervous for a 10K run. And I remember I was like, yeah, man, right, boys, we're going to do this. 110 clicks. You know, I was ready to go. I didn't mind it. And then I remember that morning, Gus was
Pissing down.
It was pissing down. Gus was like, let's lift some weight first beforehand. And I was like, yeah, let's go.
And you're coming off KFC.
And I'm coming off KFC.
So your diet was still at its prime.
Yeah, and I was just doing a few classes here and there. We're also drinking a few, you know. I was drinking a lot over the weekend and stuff like that of mates and whatnot. And then I just remember doing that 10K and I struggled. Remember that?
Oh, mate, I remember.
Oh, and we were running.
It's hell, I struggled too, but
Yeah.
this is about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggled, man. And I struggled. And I think it was at that time where we're just like, and you're like, man, you need to like do this thing with me. I don't know what we're gonna do.
No, hang on, just take it one step back.
Yeah.
Tell everyone about the finish of the 10K.
God. Oh man, I was funny because
And tell everyone what everyone else was doing during this race. They were doing how much?
so we had everyone doing like 60, 50, 40 Ks, you know, for Movember. And I was doing 10K. And I remember
And our 10K was the last 10, so
it was the last
they were
10.
doing 60.
They were doing 60. And we had all these people who just finished doing 60 just come past the line. And they were like shattered, but they were still walking. And then you have this big 110 kg bloke with a shirt off. He's shattered, runs over.
Made it look like you were doing 60 Ks, didn't you?
Oh man! And
everyone looked over.
I remember I went over the line, and then I was on my knees, and you were patting my back, and everyone started walking towards me like, "Good job, mate, good job." And I was like, "Oh." I didn't say anything. You were like, "Come on, get up! You're embarrassing me."
I said to you, mate, we got to go. People are finishing 60K. We've just done 10 and we're
That's it,
wrecked.
and we're wrecked. I remember that, and I think that was it.
What clicked though? Were you disappointed or were you embarrassed or?
I just felt sore. I felt really sore after that.
Mm.
My knees were a bit sore, and then I remember going home, and I was like, I was showing off to my boys like, Dad just ran a 10K, and these boys, they don't care. These boys are
You were just a hero to them anyway.
and they look at me like I'm their superhero. So I figured, something's got to change, and what I decided then and there was that I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna surround myself with like guys with just bulletproof mindset.
Good.
That was the main thing, and I think what I did that really changed that last couple weeks was I knew I was like, oh yeah, there was you, there was Gussie, and then there was Johnson. And for those who don't know these blokes, the only one that talks a lot is Blow. And it's funny because sometimes, for those who know, sometimes we'll go gym, and then boss will ask me what's on the program today, and I'll be like, should we do a few bicep curls, and then we'll grab a coffee, and I was always the one that was dragging you down, and any of my other mates as well. I'll be like, boys, let's go train and let's have a few donuts, and I created this thing where off balance was very off, and that it was okay to be off balance, like that's
okay.
And I created that, and I was just, but still at the same time, like I think now, like in moderation,
We can how did it change though to you just turning up every single fucking day you turned up at 3:45?
Yeah. So I was already, there was a stage where my wife wanted to play in this tournament, and in this netball tournament, and she came and asked me, she said that, hey, I want to play in this tournament. Is it okay if I train in the morning sometimes? And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine, and I was pretty happy for her. So then I started training at 3 a.m. I remember I started training at 3 a.m. so then I could get home, and then she can train at 5. And she did that until she played the tournament. And then after the tournament, she didn't do mornings, and she gave the mornings back to me. But my body clock was already ready to train at that time anyways, and I was already up. And then
so you entered Hyrox.
Yeah.
Johnny and I did Melbourne Hyrox. You had entered Brisbane. So, and I felt like your whole mindset clicked. Like, when you first said you entered Brisbane, I thought you were bullshitting.
Yeah.
I thought you were still the old guy.
Everyone
did. And we all thought, and we all made a joke saying, at
Yeah.
least there'll be one free entry. Someone will take yours. And but something clicked in you. That's the part I want to get to is you entered and you raced and you had a blinder, but you didn't miss one session, and something clicked in all your sessions. You smashed yourself. Now, did you go back to the elite athlete that you were, or like somehow you just didn't drop a beat from a guy that did fuck all and was erratic, which is what most people.
Yeah.
You just went onto this path of 12 weeks of just fucking psycho.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get to, because that's where people are in this fucking hazy shit here.
Yeah.
And, how can you help them become, is that because of who you were in the past, or did something change, or did you go, I want to have a brilliant race? I mean, I know you mentioned a few times for the boys, but how did you transition?
It was funny. The hardest part about that transitioning part, I remember I entered Hyrox, and I remember I was getting so much stick, and you remember it too. And like all the boys and all the girls were like, well, show us then. Show us your
That's right.
Show us that you purchased it. Show us that you got it. And I remember I didn't want to show anyone because even I knew this was my mindset then. Even I knew I entered it, and I was like, oh, I'll just I'll get it, but then I'll just bail at the end or something if it gets too hard or whatever. And I want to sleep. And that mindset very much still.
Mm.
But then I think I knew. I remember it was like 1 week of just hard training, and I kind of had that. I had that nice feel. I just felt really, really good. And so then, like, as in really good, as in like I was consistent every day, and I was putting in some hard work, and I was very sore after that first week.
Mm.
And then I decided, you know what, I've got this goal, 12 weeks away, got Hyrox, so I needed to attach something to that Hyrox goal. So I wasn't just going there to try to get a fast time or anything. So then I attached a why, and that why for me was obviously family and stuff like that. So then if I did miss a session, then I knew, I was letting down my why and stuff like that. And when I had that, when I attached that why to that goal in 12 weeks, it kind of reverted me back to the way I used to be when I used to play,
Okay.
footy professionally. And what happened was as well is that same thing happened even at home as well. So I remember I started eating properly.
Mm.
I started sleeping properly, and I remember even my wife was like, "Oh, he's getting into the zone,"
Because
because
she's seen it before.
she's seen it before, and she knew that I was pretty serious about it. I was like, what do you call it? I was training every day, and I was in bed at like 7:30 p.m. and even my house was lights out at like
So was
8
that
p.m.
that version of you over those last 12 weeks, is that a better version of you as an elite athlete?
I
Do
reckon.
you reckon this is a better version? Like if
Yeah.
you'd taken all those principles and that to
Mhm.
back then, would you
Yeah.
been a better player?
100%.
That's interesting.
I reckon now, and like it wasn't just me. At the same time, I think and like I said before, I decided earlier on to surround myself around just guys with bulletproof mindset,
Mm.
and that's what really drove me a lot. We had guys where I was like, some mornings, like we were very tired.
Mm.
We would show up to work out, and there'll be about four of us there. And we're just like, damn, I had a crap sleep last night. We don't feel good. But man, like one person picked up the other person picked up the other, and then we just kind of just chant around.
We always got to the second
We always
workout and
got,
was just
yeah,
like, we're right.
we're right. We just clicked, and we were just like, this is the whole, and me and you always speak about it as well. And it's like, if you're able to train even when you feel like crap, that's the place where you start to train the mentals, and I think going into that Hyrox competition or the Hyrox thing that we did, you got to those moments,
Oh, definitely.
you
Yeah.
know, and it was that time when we trained and we felt like crap, and we trained our mentals already, and then it kind of just played in that while we were racing, and I think that's why I think we done well, but yeah, man, it was obviously.
So looking at what you said, there's two big things that hit me. One was having good people around you to train,
Mhm.
and two is like having the why. And the why you hear everyone talking about,
Mhm.
but I've never. And this is interesting because this is Joe Blow.
Yeah.
You always hear about the Jordans, the Kobes,
Mm.
actors, and all that. They all go, "Oh, you got to have a why. You got to have a why." You hear that all the time, but to hear it from you in terms of you always switching it back to that
Yeah. I think
is
yeah.
interesting, and that's the two big factors, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing was that you mentioned, and I told you I'd heard it in a podcast was, and this is an old one as well. Like everyone can get through the good days,
Yeah.
and every now and then life sets you a really shit day, work, kids, training, and they call that the test day.
Yeah.
And they're the days you have to get through, and they're the days where people decide,
Mm.
I couldn't be bothered. Like you were tested so many times in that period, but you just didn't stop.
Yeah. And I think I got to around halfway, which was about 6 weeks, and we started counting down. I remember we started counting down. 6 more weeks.
As a sponsor.
Yeah. Oh, what is this? Yeah. True. And I remember we spoke about it. We just kept counting down. We kept counting down, and we saw more people, and just some of the crew come in, and it looked like they had test days every day. But for us, we knew what a test day was. So then we started to rally around, to get everyone up. And I think around that halfway mark, we knew that we meant something to our crew, our community. And so then that's when the why for us was also the why to be able to inspire by what we can do in our community or, in our group, just to be able to go there and give it our best, to go hard. And we fell on the ground and everything during this period, trying to bust us, but we knew that we inspired so many others, and I think, but
So your the way I get it now is from the lazy erratic Yops to this Yops, having that goal to aim towards, the Hyrox goal.
Yeah.
12 weeks, good people to train around, and having a why. They're the three, aren't they? That people can take away in terms of, how do I get to there? Which I guess leads me to my other point that I'm struggling with at the moment, and I struggle with it for 80% of my day, and 20% of my day I go, it's okay, is like the goal's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be interested, and I can see even you've changed a little bit in terms of 10 minutes ago you said it's all about moderation.
Yeah.
Which was different to you a month ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't about moderation. And I think that's what I'm finding hard, which I'd be interested to hear what you think. I don't have that goal anymore, so I've struggled a little bit. I had 2 weeks off, and I told myself it's okay to have 2 weeks off, which it is, which you're probably realising now.
Yeah.
But that goal's gone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost really difficult because that one of the you still have the great guys to train around, but that's been a little bit different because we're going to a different gym and we're doing different sessions. And now I think it was good because we had good guys to train with, but we're on the same program.
Yeah.
Now we're all on different programs, and I've even noticed that, like you talked about, then we got to week 6 and there was 15 of us training for Hyrox, and we're all in it.
Yeah.
Have you seen how fragmented it is now? Because none of us have a goal. Which is like, I'd be interested to know, like, how do you feel post Hyrox?
Yeah.
And there's no real goal. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Don't you? It's a different feeling in the gym mentally. I mean, I'm struggling because it's just like, the other day I just went in and did your weight session.
Yeah.
And it was felt like we'd done a 15-minute workout.
Yeah. I remember, if I could put something on, I remember that. Do you remember that message I sent? Remember that message I sent to the girls before they went out to race? It was, I think what I wrote was, look, don't think about what's to come. Don't think about what happened, but just try and focus in the present time. Wherever your feet are, that's where you should be focused on. And for me, even I look back at this journey, I know that 12 weeks has kind of sharpened my mind in terms of, okay, this is a lifestyle, you know, and what it's done is like a lot of people, we look to goals and work towards it, and we can achieve it, and then we jump back on the boat where we're going through drive-throughs and stuff like that, and and I don't want to be guilty. I've been to a few lately, but my training hasn't stopped. I've pretty much just gone hard and stuff like that, but it's become a lifestyle. I remember I hit week 8, week 10, and I just felt great. My brother's messaging me from home. They're just saying, damn, what's happened? I had a few mates say, bro, you're looking fitter than you did playing footy. And then I had a few other mates say, man, I need to get back into training, or I'm keen to come and train with you and stuff like that. And look, I'm no coach. I'm no like whatever. I don't send anyone a workout to do or anything. The only thing I send them is, man, come train with me. Let's go train, or I can come to you, or whatever. I'm keen, or we could try to set up something where we're playing a game of footy elsewhere or whatnot. I've always got that community element in me, and I think it must be from my upbringing, from my church and whatnot. We just always get around and feed off everyone else's energy. But referring back to the question that you mentioned, man, I don't know. I'm still in this like training every day. I wake up still at the same time. I'm going to train every day just to get around mates. I still go to train just to come and have coffee with my mates every morning, and I feel like that's very important. Not just to be around a group, but very important for my mentals. So then I'm able to be mentally prepared. So then when I go home to my family, I'm fresh. I'm fresh, and that's my main reason. And for those who are still training for a goal, or that don't know what to do, like do it for yourself. If you've trained so hard and then you've competed in like a Hyrox or a marathon or something, and then after you kind of fall into a rut, just continue to do something for yourself. Give yourself permission just to do something for your mentals. Just for your mental health, your own mental health. So then you can show up for your family, you can show up for your friends, you can show up for your business, you can show up for this and that. And me and you have had multiple conversations when we've been in the dumps. Like we've been dead training, and we've been like, but we've spoken about, we've been vulnerable about how we felt in terms of like, damn, I'm wrecked. How do I get out of this, or how do we do this? But then when we're at the highs, I remember watching you beat your time at the Hyrox by like, how many did you beat it by?
8 minutes.
And that's a lot.
And 13 minutes over 6 months.
Yeah. And I remember you beating that, but I didn't look at your time that you got. The only time I could remember is that time where we were just like in the trenches. That's the only moments I remembered. I remembered when we were just like at that sled push at Atora where you could not even push it. And I remember just watching you just stand there.
Mate, I lost confidence. That was week 10.
Yeah.
And I completely lost confidence in the whole process. And I've done this stuff 1,000 times, got race training, and I just looked at this sled and I was like, because of similar to what Johnson was saying about self-doubt, because we'd only pushed a sled with wheels, and all of a sudden that sled was 50 times worse than the race.
Big time.
I just think, I think it's hard. I think it depends on the person as well, because I've always been goal-driven. Yeah. And when I lose a goal, I need another one, and that's why this podcast is perfect timing. And we had a bit of a lull for a couple of weeks, and you would have noticed about 3 days ago I just clicked on, and all of a sudden we got chairs here and we're ready to go. Yeah. It was like this is my new goal, and it's something to aim for. And I think I've always got to have something mentally or physically. The physical one's hard. I always have gone into the doldrums, and it's interesting you hear about, what do they call the Olympians after the Olympics? They get some sort of depression, and I think there's a word for it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Susie O'Neill was on a podcast and she was talking about it, and I've heard Grant Hackett, Thorby, Perkins, all those big swimmers.
Can you imagine?
And I'm not like that, but I had the same feeling after Hyrox, because that whole 12 weeks was fucking great. Yeah. Everyone, same program, training hard, everyone in different spikes, peaking, low, and you're right, someone always brought someone up, and bulletproof mentality is spot on, because we took the piss out of each other, but no one meant anything serious. No. And it was always, you could feel when someone was down. Yeah. And it's this massive build and then a high, and it was like a cliff. After Hyrox, it was good for a few days, and then it's like,
Yeah, I know. But we've had to pick each other up in terms of like, I remember when you finished doing Hyrox, and then the next week you were telling me, you were just messaging me, you were telling me like, man, I'm dead, eh? I got no motivation. I'm just like, and I was like, yeah, man, just take a rest, like just rest up, and then we'll get back into it. And then you're like, oh yeah, I will. And then you're like, are you going gym tomorrow? I was like, yeah. Do you want a gym? It's up to you. I don't mind. I'm pretty sore. You're like, oh, no. And then you message me like an hour later, I'm going to Bali.
well, the cyclone was coming in, and I felt like, the reason I didn't have a holiday before that, because I didn't want to miss training.
Yeah.
It was and it's not the fitness part of it, like you pointed out before. It was just that camaraderie, the mateship.
Yeah.
That was just so powerful in terms of, life at that point in time. It was that whole point that was just...
Yeah. But there's so much learnings we could get from this 12-week program, this 12 weeks that we've done. And also a massive shout out to Movement Method, the program. The boys have done awesome, and we're all pushing it out. And but there's so much other things that we can take into real life from the 12 weeks. I remember talking to one of my boys. So I've got three boys. One of my older boys, and I was just telling him as well, was like, yeah, look, if you put away your $5 this week, in 12 weeks, you can get, and all of that's just like normal, like not even financial advice, very, very simple, but like just telling him like, yeah, look, in this 12 weeks, if you did this, or like got to like 6 weeks halfway, you're like, oh, let me just add like $3 or something here, and I won't spend something here. And then in 12 weeks, I just told him, man, you could get like more saving in your little kit. And he was like, oh, yeah, cheers, thanks, Dad. But all I did was just take stuff from what I've learned from doing stuff every day, 12 weeks, and we just trained every day. And we only trained once a day, but it was like very long sessions. But like just changing little things like that and just putting it to like home.
You could use that for anything.
Anything.
I mean, if you think about strip it right back, you got a goal, you get great people that understand that goal and experience, and they write you a program. They go, this is what you do day one.
Yeah.
And this is what you do. And you know where you've really got, and I remember it in triathlon, I'd see people and the coach would write a program and then the people in between would start doing their own stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd go, why? Because obviously they didn't trust the coach. We knew that the person that wrote the program had been in the arena, like you say, and had won it and done an amazing time. So we went, we never doubted that program. We never changed it.
We never changed it.
We just went, this is what you got to do. And because that could have been a shit program like other Hyrox programs that we've seen. Like you could get halfway, you could get to there and have a shocker. Like we followed every step, and like, if that's a good idea for life, have a goal, get great people around you, as in experts, to teach you how to get there. Then have good people around you that can support you and grow you mentally and during the program. I was the same with triathlon. I'd like wake up on a Sunday and it would be 150k ride. I'd do 120.
Man.
And you know what? On race day, I never had the great race.
Yeah.
Because I chopped and changed, and I didn't, I took shortcuts.
Yeah.
That was the big thing.
And this one
And I, the other thing, my advantage, and probably yours to a lesser extent, was I had 3 people ahead of me that were far better athletes. 20 years younger than me. Like every session I was last by a mile. Like mentally, it was difficult because I always knew I was last, but also on the flip side, I was always battling just to not be so far last. In the worst possible English then. But, it was like that is mentally every session I was way back. Like I remember we do a session and the girls would come in after, and all you guys would be on different things, and I was back here.
Yeah.
And like mentally, it was just like, yes, I'm last again. But
Yeah.
that's also a good thing for life, is to have people around you that make you better.
Yeah.
Like
Always.
if I was training with 3 people that are worse than me, great for my ego, but I was never going to get better.
Nah.
Everyone had someone to chase.
Always got to go with someone that's better than you.
Yeah.